1.9 billion. And this is the first time our school budget exceeds our county budget by $10 million. Good Lord, can you believe it? I remember when it was
nice to your school board. Y'all too nice to your school board.
I know, man. They keep hitting us, you know? They keep hitting on us.
Yep, sorry. I think we're live now, so let's get started.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Not the final.
Morning.
Welcome to our April 6th Executive Committee meeting. And I'll call us to order. And Ms. Firestone, we quickly roll through roll call and confirm our quorum.
Yes, sir. Town of Ashland, Mr. Hodges.
Here.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins. Mr. Coda. 1 second, I just wanted to check and see if he had come on. Chesterfield County, Mr. Holland.
Here.
Goochland County, Chair Lumpkins.
Here.
Ms. Lascolette. Hanover County, Vice Chair Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Davis. Henrico County, Ms. O'Bannon. Mr. Thornton. Duquesne County, Ms. Page. Mr. Tiller. Powhatan County, Mr. Williams.
He's outside.
Okay. Ms. Carmack. City of Richmond, Dr. Newbill.
Here.
Mr. Addison. Thank you. That we do have a quorum.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
I'll note
Firestone.
that Mr. Williams is present.
Good, all right. Excellent. Good morning.
Morning.
We don't have anybody asking to be remote, so we'll go to item 2. And does anybody have any considerations for anything to add to the, or change to the meeting agenda? Seeing none, then let's, Chair will entertain a motion to approve our meeting minutes from last month.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges and Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, abstentions? All right, meeting minutes have been
Outside, out in the
approved.
kitchen area.
And we'll dive right in to Mr. Parsons' report to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I don't have a whole lot to report. I will go over a couple of the agenda items under item 5, but I did want to note a couple things just for information. If everyone has not noticed the mural that is underway in the room, this is being done by Hamilton Glass, who is renowned now, kind of across the country for the Mending Walls project that he and his partners have initiated. So he's doing this mural for us, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be amazing, and we're really excited about it. It kind of brings some context to the room, especially when we host outside groups here and other events and things that we can highlight what we do at Plan RVA, the TPO, and CBTA. The May agenda is going to be packed. There are lots of items that are going to be in front of the policy board at the May agenda, including hopeful adoption of the TIP, the regional conformity assessment, and the MPO self-certification. Those are all kind of packaged together. So the TIP is done not every year. So this is we're finishing up the public review in the next couple weeks, and we'll be packaging the recommendation for the TIP. And this is a major overhaul of the TIP this time around, and it's really exciting what Mr. Bushing and his team have done to bring it into hopefully a better place to be useful and provide more information to not just the members here and the TAC, but also to the general public to understand the immediate commitments of funds to transportation projects through the TPO. Another thing on the agenda for May is recommended allocations for 3 different programs, the RRTPO federal grant program, the CMAQ federal grant program, and then the carbon reduction program, which is a new set aside that came about under the bipartisan infrastructure law. So all 3 of those programs are now being reviewed. There was just like previous years, there's an application process that member jurisdictions go through to apply for available RSTP and CMAQ funds. So that is nearing its completion. The TAC has been reviewing those project recommendations, and we'll be making recommendation to the policy board for action in May. We
Mr.
are
Chairman.
expecting.
Are you gonna take questions now, or you wanna wait till the end?
Let me go ahead and finish through this agenda, because I think, your answer might be in here, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Two other quick things, Mr. Williams. We are expecting the recommendations from the TAC on cost estimating policy changes at the May meeting to give you, I think it probably could have been rushed through for this meeting, but we wanted to give adequate time for review before it comes to you, rather than waiting until after the TAC meeting and trying to rush something onto the agenda. And then the final is TIP amendments for the existing TIP in terms of maintenance groupings. So I think that's the breadth of
The
stuff.
agenda, it's got May agenda.
Yes, sir, and I did want to note, at the May meeting is also, there's a conflict with the intercity visit. I will be there, but I will attend remotely. To make sure things move through. I think Mr. Bushing has a lot of these action items to cover. And I believe Mr. Carroll and Ms. Adams are both going to be there as well.
I'm gonna be there too.
You're going to be there. Ms. Jordan is going to be there. So we may need to follow up to make sure there's a quorum, and I may need to rustle some folks in Kansas City to be on the screen.
That's Central Time.
Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, an hour behind it is.
Yeah.
Kansas City.
So
Can we
we'll
make
have
a
to.
quorum, I'm trying to remember the rules, can we make a quorum with a remote participant? I don't think, for some reason, I don't think we can make the quorum via.
How can you have a meeting, with somebody, joining in remotely, and that not be counted towards a quorum?
I'm just trying to remember the rules.
We have to have a
Rules
physical
require a
quorum
physical
present in
quorum has to be
the room
present.
unless we're
Present.
operating under the emergency declaration, which technically we still are. So
We
we'll
can-
have to check with
clarify
Eric.
with
Yeah,
Gregory.
get that straight.
Yep.
Mr. Williams, your questions that you had?
Chair, you mentioned there's a new program, carbon set aside, in addition to.
Carbon reduction, yes.
Yeah, so, in addition to CMAQ and RSTP, which we're all familiar with. Yeah, is this a new program, or are you gonna send us some information in advance of the next meeting, explain what this program is and the eligibility for the program and the amount of money that's set aside?
Yes.
No, it's not a set aside, I don't think, I think is it a set aside? What is it?
The region gets a set aside amount, but I believe we're
We
gonna
called
look
it a
at,
reduction, but it's a,
well, the program itself is called carbon reduction.
okay.
So that's the.
But this is a new pot of money that we will be eligible for. It's not taken away from anything we're currently getting from the other programs.
That's correct.
What's the difference between carbon reduction and the stuff we've been doing under CMAQ?
That's a great question. Mr. Bushing, do you want to cover? I believe it's eligible for all 9 jurisdictions.
It's pretty similar in terms of eligibility. It would be across the entire MPO, and there's a few different other project types that are eligible that weren't eligible previously under CMAQ. The main difference is when we do emissions analysis, we have to be able to show that it's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as opposed to VOC and NOx, which is what we look at for CMAQ. So it's kind of looking at different pollutants essentially.
Thanks. So one of the main groups of comments we got after the last time we adopted the long-range transportation plan was we weren't doing enough to model and assess impacts on from greenhouse gases, because traditionally we've just looked at tailpipe emissions and particulates. So this is a program that Congress has added additional funding to look at those other types of emissions and be able to look at projects that reduce those impacts.
Can I follow up on my last question? What are these other types of projects that will qualify, that don't qualify under CMAQ?
Sure, so the guidelines are a little broader in terms of what's allowed. So anything allowed under RSTP can potentially be allowed as well, as long as it's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There's some specifics about like port electrification that weren't in CMAQ previously. So there's a handful of categories, but we can provide the full list and a comparison between the two programs for the next meeting, if that's helpful.
Good discussion, good questions, because there's some details in here that are significant. Just drill down a little bit more on the cost overrun, things that we've been dealing with for several months. That's coming up on the agenda. Will you, the TAC has their, I read their minutes, they gave us their recommendation, or they forwarded a recommendation. So you're gonna present that, that's gonna be on the agenda, the recommendation is gonna be presented. Will we have, we're not doing it today, today's policy board meeting, because it was a little rushed to do so. So to make sure we have some time to consider it before the meeting, will there'll be some detail and some information to us, at least maybe a week before the meeting, so we can consider it. Is that the plan? To
That is, yes, that is the plan. And I guess to take a step back to talk about what's happened so far with that. If you recall, that conversation started with this group and with the full policy board. You gave direction to staff to come up with more background and understanding of what projects have been impacting cost estimates and where the trends are going. Staff did that and came back, and I believe that was from what I've heard, that was a good presentation to the policy board, and everybody came away with a better understanding of the impacts on cost estimates, at least from the past, back to 2004, in terms of projects that have been approved. Staff made a recommendation at that point of, I believe, 5 different categories of actions that could be taken. The policy board decided to take those recommendations from staff and direct TAC to come back with a recommendation for action. That's what's happened. TAC considered it and has taken action to make a recommendation. That will be on the agenda for the May meeting. And we'll certainly, the idea was to give you hopefully more than a week to consider what that recommendation is, because of the amount of time that this has been in conversation. We wanted to make sure that there was ample time to review the recommendation and be prepared for the meeting.
What would be a good way for us to prepare, or for you and me to prepare? Should we have somebody ready to explain the recommendation? Should somebody from staff here be ready to, because we might have some questions, I guess.
I mean, staff will certainly be here. I think it would be worthwhile to have the TAC chair here as well, to talk about the actions, if that's something you'd like to ask for.
Anything, so, because I mean, it garnered a lot of discussion. And the recommendation that's coming forward, I think I might have, I think it's that all projects follow the VDOT new cost guidelines, right?
I think that's part of it. I'm not sure that's the entire recommendation.
Yeah, let's just be prepared to answer questions.
Mr. Chair, as many people as are gonna be away for May meeting with that much stuff, should we be maybe considering a change of meeting date, or just tossing this out here? I mean, that's a lot of folks gonna be this. And I don't really know what the agenda is in Kansas City for that day right now.
Is this the May 4th meeting, right?
Yeah, the inner city visit is occurring.
Mr. Chair, we can certainly look at that. If we're looking at upcoming meetings, I mean, it may be a good idea to try and push back a week or two into May, because we do not have a regular meeting in June because of the joint meeting, will be June 1st. So if we push back to later in May, sometime between the 4th and Memorial Day weekend, then that'll give us,
I don't know that this is
a little bit of a
I
gap.
just tossed it on the table. It sounds like we're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna be trying to deal with this remotely.
I agree. When we get to the policy board section, do you want me to suggest like May 18th? If people want to look at their calendar, May 18th would be 2 weeks later.
I defer defer to Janice in terms of
She's the one that tossed the May
availability.
18th out there as a date.
It'll work.
Should work. I'm so bad with technology.
Good.
Wait, what's now, what we gonna change?
I've got to go for like 18.
Two weeks later from what is scheduled,
Same,
Thursday.
You know, I've been trying to do this meeting for about 6 months, this other meeting.
Wow.
So putting it right on the date that I want to go. We go to another meeting, I got another meeting, and it's.
Well, I'm not hearing did you get your technology working?
But I found, right now, I don't have anything else that would
We'll try.
interfere with on the 18th.
Try to-
Good, I guess, but
Yeah. Yeah, 18th.
That might be a good idea. Thank you for that
that's
suggestion,
fine.
because I think it sounds like it is gonna be a packed agenda with some important things. So our first number 5 on the agenda, we got 2 number 5s. I'm gonna miss that. But 5.1, transportation forum, I know it has me, it's got us for 20 minutes, I don't have 20 minutes to talk about the forum. I just, did you get any survey results?
We did, I was gonna ask.
Yep, so we got about 19 responses from them, and a lot of it were, so we asked questions about, you know, did you enjoy the forum? A couple other questions were, what did you enjoy about it? And then what topics would you like to hear in the future? That one, we definitely got a few responses on rural communities and other forms of transportation. Some people mentioned about interactions as well too, so a lot of good comments that came in with it from the survey. So, and everyone enjoyed the event. That was one of the questions. Everyone loved attending, would definitely attend again as well too, so.
What did you all, those that were able to join, what did you all think?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was more comprehensive, and there was a larger audience, so it hits some of the goals that we had. So from that perspective, I think it was a success.
I'd say it was one of the better ones, but I thought there was a glaring omission though. There was nothing about rail.
My gosh, that's my line.
That was, but
Absolutely.
there was nothing about rail in that,
And you're
I
sitting
think
at a
support-
train station, but yeah, excellent point.
Yeah, excellent point. And I like to hear more about the port. I know the port was there, Barbara was there to present, but I think we're underutilizing the port with respect to transportation and cargo. I think there's opportunities in there for us in the future.
I didn't know I was interesting, they're expanding though, they definitely. doing some
Tremendous expansion, yeah, tremendous growth there.
I thought that it went very well. I really appreciated the presenters. I thought they were succinct and very much on point.
Yeah, I was worried it would feel rushed, but it didn't, it was good, we were like boom, boom, boom. But I thought it was gonna be too much, but it flowed nicely, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, lengthwise, I think it was great.
Y'all were,
If it had been any longer, it would have been, started to get tiring, but it was,
Yeah.
you were able to really pay attention.
well, thank you all, because y'all, that was something y'all kind of said it from the beginning, and I thought it might be too short, but I agree. Got an early start, but got out. Still got a lot out of it and had a full day ahead of us. So that probably makes it more easier for more people to attend.
Was it recorded?
That was my
It was
question.
not.
No? I was unable to go, I had an appointment that had been, scheduled, and it was.
And I was gonna make a report to the commission, in the council, but not in a lot of detail, but I couldn't find anything. All of the preparatory, the agenda, but not what was said, and there was some interesting things I would like to check on. So,
It is a good location. I did have a question. It seemed funny that the side where we had all the refreshments, it seemed like it might have been the better side to have the meeting than and have the refreshments at the top of the stairs. And we came, just, small, item on that.
Yeah,
I do like the Main Street location.
easy location to get in and out of, and nice setting, yeah.
I know in the past, we moved it around from county to county, to city, to what have you, but, in some cases, we were able to have good venues, and others, it was a little more challenging, the number of venues available, so.
Sid, you said something about interaction, what was the context there, that people were looking for more opportunities to?
To interact, more interactive, is what they kind of said. I guess people were asking questions stuff, but I don't know if there was movement or anything like that. That would have been, they didn't really specify, they just said more interactive.
Okay.
More experiences, stories from the public and people, discussion of how citizens and business can influence, more about actions that can be taken to encourage more transportation and address concerns in transportation that may present a barrier. Progress report on 2023 topics, like a bunch of different comments were put in from that, which is great. And then favorite part was, fair presentation, RV, rapid transit, like a lot of comments on what was equity, inclusion, learning about the upcoming projects that are underway. Like those are the favorite comments, favorite parts of the whole forum as well too. So and different transportation initiatives in the Richmond area and other areas as well too. So.
How to get more public input. That's a theme that we're dealing with, I think, everywhere. All right, do you have any other questions on that, Jennifer? Do you have it? All right, now to our second number 5 on the agenda.
So today's policy board meeting is somewhat brief. There's a little bit of everything in it. So we have a consent agenda where that includes the work status and financial report, as well as a request to endorse applications for section 5310 funds. That's going to be on page 24. And that is something that is that the TPO does on a regular basis. These are applications for the 5310 program is enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. It's through the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, utilizing Federal Transit Administration funds. There were 5 applications this year, which are listed on page 25. So those have already been submitted by the requesting agencies. And the ask today is for the TPO just to endorse those applications to give them a little bit more weight. So you can see a variety of applications: Chesterfield County, Goochland Cares, GRTC, Senior Connections.
Page 25, there are 2 number 4s.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
I'm sorry, I'm not following Ms. Van.
Page 25, you said there are 5 applications.
There's 4 bullets. I think you're looking at the work
Expected
program.
results product.
I think you're looking at the work program, not the agenda. Different packet.
Okay. And I'm gonna admit, I couldn't find everything online.
Yeah, I think you're looking at this.
Okay,
That's not the agenda packet.
all right. Well, I had a hard time finding the information for some reason this time online. I got like 3 copies of everything because I had to ask my assistant. And I couldn't figure out where stuff was, and I apologize, and yet it was not clear to me where it was. 25?
Yes, ma'am.
It's this one then. Okay. Because I know what they are, just that one. This is the 5310. Okay.
Under new business, there's 1 action requested and 1 information item. The action requested is approval of the FY24 Unified Planning Work Program. This is a little bit accelerated, and I have a presentation to go through the highlights of the work program. We are asking for approval today, knowing that the UPWP is something that is supposed to be dynamic and adjusted as necessary. For those of you who have been on the TPO for a while, most years, the work program is amended in the fall, winter timeframe to adjust for any changes in funding and priority focus areas for staff time. We expect that might happen this go around as well, based on a couple things that I'll highlight in the presentation. But we wanted to go ahead and get it on the agenda for you today. One, because the May agenda is very full, and we thought that it would be better to be able to focus on this now. The second reason is Planner VA is trying to get the full budget for the agency done in May, because it has to be submitted by, I believe, the 31st. And because the TPO is such a big part of that budget, it's helpful to have the work program identified before the full commission budget is completed. So it just sequentially, it flows. And this is all having to consider that the June meeting is not really happening because of the annual meeting and the tendency to not do action items for that meeting. So taking steps back, today made the most sense from a looking ahead perspective to have the UPWP on the agenda. We did a similar thing last year with the adoption of this. So we'll work through it, and obviously any questions, I've already gotten a suggestion from Mr. Hodges to make this work out. The second item under new business is an overview of the scenario planning process. This has been on the agenda for the last few meetings, and it's just an information item, but it's going to be very similar in nature to one I did for the commission a couple months ago, just to give an overview of what the project is and where we are in the cycle, and how it impacts, how it's driven by the needs of the TPO and the transportation work that we're doing. Then after that, item C is agency and committee reports. We'll have some highlights of those. And then looking at other business, the future meeting topics on page 29. And I guess a discussion of a next meeting date. So that's a brief overview of the agenda for today.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know why, but somehow my eye fell on the CTAC. The CTAC, the Citizen Community Advisory Group, anyway, they meet. One of the future topics was to invite them to our meeting. It just so happens that on May 18th, they're scheduled to meet, going from their report. I don't know if they meet in the morning or the afternoon.
So they'll be here right after the meeting if we wanted to invite them to that meeting.
So there might be some synergy there. That's just a comment.
Took a long meeting and made it longer, but I think we've been wanting to do that. I think that was a priority, so yeah, I like that. Can you keep that in mind and see if they can?
You can spin this that, we're coming to you.
Exactly.
Ms. Guthrie may be here today too, so I mean.
Okay, yeah, we'll bring it. So what does this board usually do for the Unified Planning Work Program? Do you, the time I've been on it, I don't recall doing deep dives with it, but can you tell us, I'm looking at the table 3 on page 37 of the program.
Yes.
And that's where that seems where the numbers reside. Do things change a lot from year to year?
No, and I'll highlight the major changes in the presentation at 9:30.
Oh, it's this one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The budget overall is very similar to last year's. There's just a couple.
I heard you. I know the feel.
I mean, the work program is, as you all know, is something that is that drives where staff is focused for the year. So it's really a worker-focused program that identifies the planning work that the TPO is gonna undertake. So I've appreciated the ability and the willingness of the policy board to allow staff to kind of drive the development of the work program. We worked to understand what our strengths are and our weaknesses and kind of dive into making sure that we do the things that we've heard are the priorities for the region. So we've developed the work program year to year based on that. And as I said, it can be adjusted as needed. Sometimes it is necessary because there's something that at this time of the year we don't foresee. There's a new request, a new project that needs to be started like later in the year, and we'll adjust to make sure that the work program reflects that.
I see. Do y'all have any questions at this stage? I mean, I know we'll talk about it at the policy board meeting, but I didn't want to jump ahead.
Sort of basic, wasn't this the unified work program and would it change your name, is that it? No?
No.
Sure.
Positive.
The initials just don't add up, but it's okay, I guess.
So I see a footnote like FY 235303 carryover funds.
Yes.
So that made me, that was a question I had, and then I saw the footnote. Like, do we ever end up a year that's like, okay, we didn't utilize all these funds, and what happens to those funds? And obviously, something apparently does happen with the 5303 funds.
We are working towards that. If we could fully staff up, that would help. But we're having, I mean, the last few years, we've had some difficulty finding qualified and filling out our staffing roster. So as we've discussed, not just here, but at the commission, it's something that in all the jurisdictions are experiencing the same thing. So that's one thing. We could spend more money if we had more staff to utilize those hours. I mean, it's all about putting hours towards the work.
Towards the work. So people, everybody that works here, they track their hours on which phase.
Absolutely. That's how we develop the work program.
So I was gonna say, this essentially, does it reflect salaries?
Yes.
This is salary.
It is.
Okay. So when we talk about like trying to, that urban planner, we were talking about bringing, looking for an urban plan. But that's in there, but Plan RVA Plan RVA handles the HR component of it?
Yes.
And they run the ad and they interview and all that, but the money would come from our budget?
Yes, the work program reflects the staff that is paid through the federal grant program.
Yes.
So we have 26 people under the umbrella here, and about 12 of them are funded through the work program. Everybody else is funded through either like environmental grant programs or Plan RVA Commission. I mean, there's other ways, emergency management, but about half of the staff is funded through these programs.
How does it work that they keep giving us this level of money if we can't spend it, can't staff up?
A lot of it is formula based. It depends on the grant program, but through federal highways, PL funds, and federal transit 5303 funds, those are our main programs, and you can see those listed in the columns.
PL stands.
PL and 5303.
Yeah.
Those are formula based. So funds come through the state, through VDOT and DRPT, and then are distributed to the MPOs in the state to make sure that these planning efforts continue to move forward.
Could we hire contract people to come in?
We can, and that's part of the plan for this upcoming work program, because of the work that needs to be done.
Well,
It all relates back to what we need to have done this year.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was gonna suggest too, have we looked at VCU, Virginia State Policy, look at them, and maybe we could do interns or, very knowledgeable, skilled interns, people are probably working on their master's degree in urban planning and those kind of areas. Those might be opportunities for us to reach out to those schools, if you will, to see what might be available, and contractors as well. I think will be an opportunity. You know, what's critical is getting that work done and having those networks to do it.
One of the things, I agree with that. One of the things we're doing in Henrico is, we call the program Encore, which of course means once more. Again, and we have retired people who want to come back and work some, you know, and they're paid at the hourly rate. Well, when they retired, their salary was probably at a fairly high level. And so they're hired at what would be an hourly rate, using that standard of whatever it was they were making when they retired. We've had a lot of takers of that because of the economy and all that. So retirees come back and work a certain number of hours. They have to qualify to the extent that if they're doing it with the police, they have to pass a physical. You wouldn't need to do that. But, you know, maybe some retirees might want to come back and work on an hour or make one project or something, you know, do whatever you can adjust to accommodate somebody who's on, like you were saying, contract work, so. I'm just throwing that as something we're
Thank you.
doing.
So the PL and the 5303, things stay in those buckets, and obviously federal, state, local, they stay in all those buckets. You're moving, when you move things around, you're moving them up and down in the same column, I would think.
We adjust the work tasks. If you look down the left side, we adjust the type of work that needs to be done based on what the priorities that we've set for the year. And then we adjust the percentages between PL and 5303 for each work task. Because one year, the work task, whether it's, performance-based planning, one year there may be a higher need for transit focus there. So we would increase the transit funding and decrease the PL funding. So we adjust that on a year-to-year basis, depending on the type of work that needs to be done.
Maybe they'll just kind of give some highlight of some discussion the policy board might have on this.
Yes.
Dr. Newell, yeah.
No, that was, I was concurring.
All right, back to so that's everything on, you're reviewing the agenda topics?
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about next meeting. I'll bring that up maybe earlier when at the policy board meeting, so while people are still here, if not long, try to pin that down. May 18th, though, sounds like it might be. We got 15 minutes or so, close to 20 minutes. Anything else to discuss at this point?
No, sir. I mean, I guess to Dr. Allen's point, we do have a great relationship with the Wilder School at VCU.
I thought so.
We've hired Wilder Fellows, which is a bigger commitment than just hiring an intern. But we're really, and we have a big interest in hiring interns as well.
Good.
We're doing both, but again, it goes back to, I only want to recommend hiring folks when they're a good fit and they provide the expertise that we need. I mean, my focus is the quality rather than just trying to have a body in the seat. So we're continuously looking for a good fit. I will note we just hired, well, in the last 2 months, we hired 2 new data analysts. Both came from out of state because they were highly qualified, but they both accepted immediately. They were very interested in moving to the region. So that said a lot in terms of the quality candidates that we're getting and the interest in being here to do the work that needs to be done.
You know, another part of that is when you hire interns, they can be great interns, but you need to have a qualified mentor to work with that intern to be able to, for them to be effective.
Stretch a few minutes before the policy board kicks off. And we'll try to keep this one short so that we'll be ready for the long one in May.
So is it gonna be May 18th? Is that what
Well, we'll talk about it at the policy board, but I think that's where we're headed. Yeah, sounds like that's where we're heading.
Chester?
Yeah, I got